Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Head into your local Safeway for great spring savings throughout the store. This week at Safeway, get yellow peaches or nectarines for the member price of $1.88 per pound. Also this week at Safeway, value packs of Signature Farms chicken drumsticks, thighs, leg quarters, or picnic packs are buy one, get one free. Plus, get value packs of USDA choice boneless beef top sirloin steak for the member price of $4.99 per pound. Visit Safeway.com, download the Safeway for You app, or head in store to find more great deals at Safeway.
Hello audience, wherever you may hail. I'm your host John Bruni. Welcome to The Focus. Join us as we explore some of Australia's and the world's most fascinating and important contemporary developments, shedding a spot of light in a world filled with alternative fact darkness. In this episode, our guest is Mratt Kyaw Thu. Mratt Kyaw Thu is a Burmese freelance journalist. He's worked as a senior reporter at the Frontier Myanmar and the Myanmar Times. In 2017, he was awarded the Agence France-Presse Kate Webb Prize for his reporting of ethnic strife and frontline reporting in Rakhine State and Shan State. Mratt, welcome to The Focus.
Hello.
Mratt, in March, while we were still broadcasting The Focus on Radio Adelaide, we tried to get hold of you to get your views on events in Myanmar. But it was a bit of a Hail Mary by our producer, Malcolm Hughes, considering the post-coup chaos. Can you tell our listeners of your journey since the aftermath of the coup and your escape from Myanmar?
So first of all, thank you so much for having me for that podcast. And then, it's a real pleasure to talk about my country, why I am exiled in Madrid, Spain. Because, it's a really long journey for me because firstly, I went to Germany to get some asylum status there. But unfortunately, they sent me back. They sent me to Spain. So I'm now in Spain. So the journey is quite extraordinary for me because, I met a lot of new friends, most of them are revolutionary soldiers in the forest, on the border between Myanmar and Thailand. And then, a lot of things happened. Actually, I remember one thing that when I was in the jungle on the border of Myanmar and Thailand, so the Myanmar military attacked by the airstrike. For the most of my life as a journalist, we reported a lot of airstrikes by the Myanmar military in the ethnic areas where a lot of people were died for the last decades. But, we never seen such kind of attacks with our own eyes. But at this event, we saw a lot of things done by the Myanmar military. And then the tension between the Myanmar military and the Burma majority and the ethnic groups. Because, I experienced this kind of thing, I witnessed a lot of things, the tensions between Burma majority and other ethnic groups, and then the tragedies and the troubles of the ethnic groups. Because, in major cities, it's still happening right now, is that, a lot of people are demanding the ethnic armed groups to fight against the Myanmar military. But, most of them, they didn't realize that the ethnic groups and ethnic people, ethnic armed groups have been struggling by their own to get the food, accommodation, and the free education, free healthcare system, this kind of thing. But right now, a lot of people encouraging them to fight against the military. But I think it will be a very long journey for the ethnic groups and then for the people of Myanmar too. that kind of things I experienced for the whole journey, which is I want to highlight today.
Mratt, from my limited understanding of Myanmar, since 1948, Myanmar has been in a sort of almost permanent state of civil war with one group or another. At what point does the military of Burma wake up to themselves and find out that it's not through the barrel of a gun that peace can be actually settled in terms of bringing in the ethnic groups, creating a national home state that people can feel safe in? I mean, do you see that there's anyone in the military domain that might be able to twig to this, or are they all of one mind?
It's impossible. Technically, literally, whatever you say. And that's the way that Ang San Suu Kyi tried to negotiate with them for the last 10 years. After 2012 by-election, the Ang San Suu Kyi parties went half landslide in the by-election. After 2015 election, most of the people realized that Aung San Suu Kyi was the only way to talk with the military. And then the NLD parties and then all other ethnic groups understood that she could lead the talks with the military. And then in my understanding, she persuaded the military to understand the peace for the people of Myanmar and for the ethnic groups of Myanmar. But for that point, Aung San Suu Kyi failed to get peace within the armed groups and the military. So we couldn't expect the peace from the military, never. It will never happened because, there's no mindset within the military. Right now, even if the senior general Min Aung Hlaing's suicide himself, like Hitler, nobody can expect that the peace within the military or the kind of peace mindset within the military never happened, because the whole institution built by the brainwashed soldiers. Right now, even the CDM soldiers who joined the CDM civil disobedience movement against the military, and then they are interviewing a lot of people, a lot of media right now, and even within the military, they block the access to the internet because they're afraid of their military families and soldiers to watch this kind of interviews by the CDM soldiers to the world and to the Myanmar people, because they're afraid that if the soldiers who are with the people of Myanmar could talk about the freedom and could talk about how they are happy with the people, the senior generals of the military are afraid of their own people. If they realize that they are under the oppression, under the no freedom of movement, no freedom of education, this kind of thing, they are afraid of that, because if the people within the military compound understand that kind of thing, they cannot control 100%. Yeah. So if you ask me about their mindset, it will never happen.
I will have to ask you this, because here in the West, and particularly among the chattering classes in Australia, we were rather disappointed when we saw Aung San Suu Kyi's policies with regard to the Rohingya. So what do you think caused her to have such a hardline policy? Was it in order to placate the military? Because she doesn't seem as the type of person who would, wear the white dove around her neck and then beat you up with a baseball stick. She seems like a very peaceable kind of person. So was there some hard politics behind her decision to go hard against the Rohingya, or is anti-Muslim bias so very prevalent in Myanmar? I mean, what can you tell the foreign community you're speaking with?
The first thing is, I would say the Rohingya case is the biggest mistake of Aung San Suu Kyi. Because, at the time, like after 2015 election, so the other opposition party like USDP, Union Solidarity Party, a military-backed party, they raised that campaign against the anti-Rohingya, anti-Muslim campaigns. That was not coincident because, after the landslide of the NLD party and the Aung San Suu Kyi victory, they raised that campaign. And then that hit to the Aung San Suu Kyi and the victory of the Aung San Suu Kyi and the victory of the people, Myanmar people. So, you can imagine that the anti-Muslim and anti-Rohingya campaign hit the Aung San Suu Kyi victory. So, for the people, like it's like, you cannot imagine what things happened between the anti-Muslim, anti-Rohingya and the democracy icon victory that hit. So we can say, we can imagine that's a battle between democracy and anti-Muslim and anti-Rohingya. So the democracy failed. So we can say Aung San Suu Kyi failed. Because, and then for the writer cases, Reuters news agency cases, she did say that, the writer journalist broke the law. Actually, she shouldn't say that, in my journalistic view, because, they reported what they saw and what they had, what they received by the informations, but she said that they broke the laws. So, and then another thing is, I personally posted on my Facebook that the state councillor Aung San Suu Kyi office and the president office should check the information that flow from the ground, because the heads of the state received the information from the ground, and then that's completely wrong. Because in 2016 and 2017, I was there for the first hand, and then I witnessed like almost everything done by the military and then done by the government officers. And then I told a lot of people about that, and then they didn't listen what's happening really on the ground. But the heads of the states and then the officers on the above level, top level, they didn't realize what's happening on the ground, because the information flow carried on the ground is by the military. So every information carried by the military, and then the top levels, they didn't realize what's happening on the ground. So that's the tragic.
Are we sort of in the position of having expected too much from Aung San Suu Kyi? It was almost like we were deifying her. We were making her a saint, a Mother Teresa of politics. And when she finally got to become state councillor, the real test of whether or not she can deliver on democracy, and not just Burmese democracy, but a democracy that the international community could truly understand. Were we putting too much pressure on her, you think, considering the internal political situation in Burma?
Yeah, I think so. Because, international community expected too much on her. On the other hand, she might thought that she could lead the government by herself. But in my opinion, it's wrong. Because, at the time, a lot of academics and then a lot of scholars who came back from international universities and, who graduated from other Western university, and then they were really ready to serve for the country. And then she didn't give opportunities much for them, because, her top priority is loyalty. So she always said that the loyalty is the top priority for the party and for the country. So she appointed a lot of her loyal followers and devotees. Because, if she said something to, like, if she instructs something to her ministers or the, officers, they had to follow the instructions 100%. So she appointed her loyalists. So that's another mistakes of her. So, a lot of things happen about her. If it's it's not done by overnight to talk about her. Please, can we focus on the current situations?
No, actually, one more question off the beaten track, and that is,
Okay.
it's more of a personal question. I mean, when the whole thing started, Burma was in an information lockdown. But since you fled the country, have you been able to reach back to friends and relatives back home, or is there still that great bamboo wall there that it's impenetrable?
Yeah, so I can still talk to my people, like my friends and my family, but my family is still lucky because they are in Rakhine State. Because right now, Rakhine State is kind of isolated from the mainland. I'm afraid to say that's kind of the mainland and Rakhine State and Kachin State, but it's happening right now. So Rakhine State is isolated from the mainland, and the Kachin State is also isolated from like Yangon and Naypyidaw. And then also like current state is started, they're starting to isolate from the mainland. So it's still happening, yes.
Well, so what can you tell us about the state of Myanmar since the February coup?
If we compare with the February and March, so we could say the development right now is the military suffers a lot about the mentality, because within the military families, they block themselves within their compounds right now, because the people defense forces, they're doing like underground works like bombing and like a lot of things happen in Yangon and Mandalay and the Kachin State too. So before that, like military families block themselves before the coup as well. But after that, they're even afraid to go outside as a military families. So right now, so they are mentally broken right now, suffering a lot about their mentality issues. So that's the one thing. So another thing is over 1,000 military soldiers joined the CDM movement right now, but the National Unity Government is still negotiating with them. Like when I say negotiating, the trust issues is the most problematic issues between the CDM soldiers and the National Unity Government right now. It's the biggest issues because the National Unity Government is formed mostly by the former NLD members. So, the NLD members are not quite good when they're talking with the militaries. So after 1,000 soldiers join the CDM movement and they are ready to work for the National Unity Government, but, they have no place within the National Unity Government. So it will be a kind of a small issue between the National Unity Government and the CDM soldiers. So that's happening right now. And then another thing is the vast majority of people expected the D-Day that maybe October or, before October, after October will be happened. So D-Day will be the solution for the people of Myanmar and then for the CDM soldiers, and then because it's been 6 months, and then right now I've been even organizing some money for the CDM teachers and then CDM lecturers and the university, because since the February they didn't go to work, they didn't teach anymore. But right now, and then a lot of organizations supported financially them. But right now, after 6 months, they're suffering kind of shortage of the money and like financially broken. So they need more help. But after 6 months, I couldn't imagine about that, because if you have like a $200 or $300 per month, like you can donate $100 or $50 per month. But after 6 months, no. I think it will be a biggest problem for the CDMers. Yes.
Well, I'm just curious now. When I heard you earlier speak about the internal situation, you said that there were bombings and various other bits and pieces happening within Burma. Obviously, these things are not making the Western media. Can you explain to our audience what you know of the strength of public resistance to military rule? I mean, is there organized resistance? And if there is it led by the National League for Democracy, or are there other groups at play here?
So we can say there are three groups fighting against the military right now. So when we are saying about PDF, People Defense Forces, a lot of people misunderstood that the PDF groups are under the National Unity Government. Actually, it's not. So only like a handful of groups are under the National Unity Government, handful of PDF groups. They are fighting against the military. On the other hand, there are other People Defense Forces who are fighting against the military on their own, not by the command of the National Unity Government. So on the other hand, another groups we call right now is UG, underground groups. And then another group is STF. So they're also fighting against the military on their own too. So not every group is under the control of National Unity Government. They are fighting on their own. So on their own means that they have to get their money, they have to get their finance by themselves.
So if they have to, if they're fighting the military and they have to get their own income streams, what is it that their endpoints are? I mean, it seems to me that they all have different endpoints. I mean, do they want to reinstate Ang San Suu Kyi and have democracy, or do they want to do something different? Do they want to have a Trump-style totalitarian state? I mean, what's the end point of these groups? I mean, because they don't seem to be congealing. They seem to be splintering off into their own areas. Or maybe it's just me misreading it.
Yeah, that's a very tough question actually. So so the problem is the line of command actually. So every group needs line of command. But that's only thing that lacks by the National Unity Government, to be honest. So if one group, I would say right now is National Unity Government, can give command to all of the groups by one word, let's fight today and then fight that, very simple. But they cannot do it right now. But I believe they are negotiating, initiating that kind of line of command right now. It's not too late, but it's a little bit slow walk by the National Unity Government. But for your question, I think every group are fighting against the military, but they are like kind of feeling blood by their, achievement and goals. When I've been talking to like many People Defense Forces like almost every day, and then they ask some suggestions from me, how to make the statements and how press release to the people, and then I give some kind of suggestions for them. So they're quite like nervous for the situations, because we are fighting. They said we are fighting against the military, but what's the solution? When our goal and achievement will come, when this kind of struggles overcome, they have no idea. Even if the military catch me, I save the last bullet for me. They told me, but they have no idea actually. So they need, honestly, one very great line of command.
I'm John Bruni, and you're listening to Sage International's The Focus podcast, and we're speaking with Burmese freelance journalist Mratt Kyaw Thu on Myanmar. Mratt, to what degree did the Chinese give their blessing to the coup? They are, after all, heavily invested in Myanmar, especially in the construction of the China-Myanmar economic corridor. Okay,
here comes the biggest player, right? I think some people might notice that Chinese government supported a lot of ethnic armed groups in the north of Myanmar. So, when we are talking about the ethnic armed groups, we cannot leave the Chinese government backup. But if you carefully read the news, what's happening in the north of Myanmar, like Chinese government is quite silent this time about the situations in the border, actually, because and then some ethnic groups are fighting against the military, and then it's like very intense in ethnic areas, and then Chinese government doesn't say anything about that. They just, because before the coup, the Chinese government said that they need stability, not the peace. They just need stability. Right now, there's no stability anymore, but they didn't say anything yet. So that means, in my opinion, Chinese government is also not quite comfortable with the coup as well. So I think they are still waiting some moments. I don't know for that moment, but they're still waiting for some moment to bet who's also is winning,
What level of public support do you think the Burmese military has among the people of Myanmar? I mean, especially military leader General Min Aung Hlaing. I mean, he had promised after the coup that 6 months from the coup, Myanmar will be up for elections and we will have some sort of guided democracy, shall we say, right? How close are we to meet his expectations?
I said, I always said that he's delusional, always. Because, he always said, he even welcomed in his first speech to the people that, we welcome the foreign investments and then we will ease the agreements and the dependent agreements within the foreign investment, this kind of thing. But after that, a lot of foreign investment left the country. But I think right now, only some Japanese companies still cooperating with the Myanmar military right now, Japanese investments. So, and then May online, he promised that maybe the election will be held on 2023. So that might be next, 2 years. So that's why a lot of people are right now worried about the timeline of the fightings between the NUG and PDF groups and the military as well, because the timeline the military setup is 2023. So 2023 is the timeline for the military. If the situation is still ongoing like this, like the current situations, the May online will hold election for sure, I think. But the election is not the thing that the Myanmar people expected, because if even if the election would be held into 2023, they can do it, because right now they are trying to revoke the National Democracy Party. That's not new as well, because they did it in 1990, 1991. So everybody can calculate what they are doing, and maybe next 10 years or whatever, everybody knows what they are doing. So the only thing for the Myanmar people is to fight against the military. That's all. So right now everybody says that that's the end game. So if we can do it, there will be no more fightings. Yeah.
Finally, are you hopeful for a return to democracy?
It's really early to say that, because it's still early stage to say that, to be honest, because if we can talk after September, October, or maybe the end of this year, I could say some answers to you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to hold you. I will hold you to that, Mratt. So thank you for that. We have now a pledge, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to follow up this story with Mratt, because I think it's really fascinating. I mean, look, here in Australia, we barely get any news coming out of Myanmar as is, and we tend to overlook Southeast Asia. I mean, I think one of the huge tragedies at this point in time is that our greatest Southeast Asian neighbor, Indonesia, is going through a major problem with COVID. And, the major news networks are covering Afghanistan, they're covering the United States, they're covering everywhere, but they're not covering what they ought to be covering, which is our nearer areas. So anyway, on that note, I will get off my soapbox. But, You can see where I'm coming from here, can't you? So it's really very important that we follow up with you on Myanmar, because I think anything that happens there has a potential to destabilize other countries as well if this continues. So Mratt, thank you very much for your time and for your insights on the focus.
Thank you so much.
Award-winning Burmese freelance journalist Mratt Kyaw Thu. That's it for this episode. We hope that you enjoyed the show. My thanks to our guest, Mratt Kyaw Thu, and to our producers, Neil Smart and Malcolm Hughes. Thanks also to the Ozcast Network. You can find The Focus on the Sage International website at sageinternational.com.au, the Ozcast Network, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. Until next time, goodbye.
Earth Justice is a national legal nonprofit fighting to protect people's health, to preserve magnificent places and wildlife, and to combat climate change. Visit us at earthjustice.org. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.